Hello, Esin Alpogan here, welcoming you to the fourth episode of the JOMO podcasts created by G2O Turkey Travel and Events. Today I am joined by Batu Akyol, a London-based filmmaker and owner of Loyka Productions, a documentary production company focusing mainly on the music industry. Batu also has a great interest in both the Turkish and British culinary world, but today we will be talking about the history of jazz music in Turkey.
That's what I like.
Hi, Batu. How
Hello.
are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Batu, I just want to start with your wonderful documentary, Jazz in Turkey, which I thoroughly enjoyed and learned so much from. So congratulations on that, and thank you for making it.
Thank you.
Just to give our listeners a brief background information on it, it was you focused basically on the milestones of jazz music in Turkey, and it took you 2 years, I believe, to make it, and you completed it in 2013.
That's correct.
It's premiered at the Istanbul Jazz Festival and was shown at film festivals in more than 10 countries, including the Istanbul Film Festival in Turkey, and it won a special jury award at the Boston Turkish Films Festival.
That's correct.
And was a finalist at the TRT International Documentary Film Contest too. So congratulations on all of those as well.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Just to add, for those interested, this wonderful documentary is on YouTube. Jazz in Turkey. Please do watch it. You will enjoy it thoroughly. So I guess we should start at the very beginning by talking about, I know it's a broad question, but this is, I think, where we should start. So we should probably start at how jazz music came to be in Turkey.
Yeah, I'd like to say first, that film is now generally, I think, 7 years old after finish, and it screened first time in Istanbul Jazz Festival. And so the year by year, every year, it's becoming more delicious because the people are adding lots of things to that movie, actually, with their own stories or maybe some, let's say, personal stories and archives. It's just coming up to life, and then just they sharing after watching this movie, and then they're calling me, Batu, you know what? I've been there, and I have this photo, and I have this record, or something like that. So the people are still sharing their own, let's say, memories from all those years, and which is I like very much like this part of this making documentary,
Yes.
Especially about music.
And also, it seems very much in keeping with jazz music itself, right? Because in your documentary, Wayne Shorter talks about how it's about coming together in dialogue, and that's what jazz allows to do. So I guess you're feeding that dialogue and bringing people together in that sense.
Yeah, that was the very hard part. That was the very hard part of the movie because the the archive things in Turkey, it's very rare to find about anything, any topic. I mean, I'm talking about the music, let's say, for Turkey. Our big source about music in Turkey is TRT radio channel. And TRT radio channel has some archives about the old times since let's say 60s, 70s. I think end of 60s was the first date of TRT channel. But before that, there was a post office radio channel, and it's going back a little bit further, like 40s or 50s, something like that. And but my first aim was the TRT channel archive. But when I take a look for this specific genre, which is jazz, it was very rare to find some records because of jazz about the jazz, because of the jazz music was not well-known music in Turkey channels, in TRT channels, but we had lots of jazz musicians on those years, and the musicians was making jazz after the let's say Sunday programs at the end of the program for one or two let's say performances. But the producers of the channel, they're always reusing the bands, the tapes for recording the other programs, and then they were always erasing the end of the programs. They were keeping the interviews part of those records, and then the music part was always erasing. And then so some old producers, I mean very elder producers, have told me that so we lost many golden records, let's say, about our jazz musicians from
what a
60s
shame.
and 70s. Yeah, it's a shame. And then while you're working on this kind of project, it's always giving more pain to you, because and after that, so I just realized that I had to do this project with the oral history way, which is I have to make lots of interview, and then cross interviews, cross chats, and cross conversations with other people for make sure about the realities and the facts of this music in Turkey. That's why I done I think over 56 people
Wow.
in 2 years, and in many countries, let's say. I just went to United States just for 4 interviews, for example, for finishing up this project. One of them was Quincy Jones, by the way. It was
Wow.
interesting. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was my, let's say, very enjoying part. I can.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
If you take a look to jazz, there's well-known information that like jazz was born when slaves from Africa were brought to America. All human emotions such as sadness, pain, longing, and freedom we share, something like that. I mean, this kind of things, information you can find all over the internet, everywhere. But in other hand, after this slave situation about jazz, and also in Europe side, the jazz has started and it was I think beginning point was the Second World War time, and the Second World War time. Many American musicians went to Europe, especially to France, Italy, and other Western European countries, and then they also start their music over there. They were playing lots of playing at different clubs, jazz clubs, and surprisingly, we didn't get this jazz thing from America. We got this genre from France, especially, and then we have minority nationality citizens, so the Armenians and also the other minority people you can find in Turkey. So the one name was the Leon Avegdor, for example, who was the violin player, came with the violin education, let's say, to Istanbul, and he started to make music with some other members who found in Istanbul, and then.
And this was in the 1920s, 30s.
30s, I mean, early 30s or something like that. Yeah. But they were playing, actually, that wasn't jazz, actually. I mean, that was tango. At the beginning, the people was calling tango was a jazz, because the jazz was representing itself always a dirty music at the early times. And then it's like underground music. For example, I love R&B or hip hop or rap, but if you take a look now, so you can say that at the beginning of rap and hip hop, for example, it's also underground music, type of music, you can call that.
Yeah.
At the early times of jazz, the people was calling jazz as a dirty music. So and then because It was against to the a classical music, let's say, rules and codes, and
Mm-hmm.
and the jazz musicians has broken lots of rules about after the classical music with their own tones and their own, let's say, scales and rhythms, let's say.
Yeah, and lots of improvisation, right? I mean, it's
Exactly,
it that
exactly. That
which
part, yeah. They're
yeah,
calling themselves with those improvisation is it's making more anarchists them. Let's say
yeah,
they're calling themselves anarchists while they doing their own improvisation and the performance.
yeah. And so yeah, I mean, I read this as well, that that Leon Avigdor
Yeah.
is seen as a pioneer of jazz music in Turkey.
Mhm.
But then there's also another view, that it was in fact Friedrich Bruce Thomas, who was an African American jazz impresario, right?
That is
Who
another interesting
like
point.
a
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
and he's fascinating. From Mississippi, emigrated to Russia, escaped from the Bolshevik Revolution in 1919, and ended up
isn't
in
it amazing?
Istanbul.
Isn't it amazing the
Yeah,
story? Because I couldn't imagine the communist black person in Russia and just running away from Russia because of he was a communist.
yeah,
And
it's
then
crazy.
it's crazy. And then so the maybe you heard that there's a book about him, a Russian guy just written a book about, and then. Actually, there's a very interesting point about him because the American embassy called me. I mean, I think 5 years or 6 years ago, maybe more. Um,
Hmm.
they told me that they would like to do another documentary about Thomas,
Oh
and
wow.
then because the in those years, because he he was immigrant. Migrated from America to Russia, and then in America, um, he didn't get the right permissions or something like that. I think he just traveled a little bit, let's say, in
Illegally.
illegal way, yeah.
Yeah.
And in that point, so the embassy didn't gave their attention to Thomas when Thomas was in jail in Istanbul. Thomas is just passed away in a jail because of the gambling. What do you call that? When you play
That's
debts, yeah, exactly.
mm,
So the he was in jail because of his gambling debts, and then he just passed away there. And the American embassy didn't do anything about when he was in jail, and the latest cultural department, head of the cultural department of American embassy, told me that they would like to give credit to the Thomas, and they feel
mm,
guilty about that, and they would like to do another, I mean, a movie about him, giving the old, let's say, credential
sure.
to him. And this is happened exactly right after that book released by the Russia and a Russian author. I don't remember the name of the guy. Anyway, it's an interesting detail, but the so we didn't have it didn't happen that documentary. So we were doing some in some different way to tell his story, but we couldn't make it, let's say. But still, Thomas is a really very colorful character, waiting to do a movie about him. Actually, yeah,
So could we tell our listeners a little about him? So when he arrived here,
yeah.
um,
He's the
he opened
inventor.
a.
He's the
Mhm.
inventor. Can I say inventor or investor
Yes, I'm
or
sure.
opener? I think he's the inventor of the nightlife of Istanbul. Let's say because
Uh-huh.
he opened the Maxim casino. So,
Yes.
casino is casino, I think, right? Shall I?
Yes.
I don't
Uh-huh.
know what is in English. So the Maxim business. So before the Zeki Müren time, before the Safiye Ayla and the other people, there were lots of foreign musicians was going to that place and making their own music. And the first band was Seven Palm Beach Orchestra, which was the Black American people who came with a trip, or I don't know that detail, but there is a old Turkish written invitation about them, and they are wearing the fez on their, fez hats on their heads,
Yeah.
and then the Maxim business was inviting people about listen to them, their own jazz music, which was tango anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so the tango is the first jazz of Turkey, let's say, and then same as like Europe. And in the meantime, in New Orleans and also the southern part of the country was making blues and really starting to let's say standards and American jazz, and the Turkey was inventing the other parts of jazz, like the improvisation thing. And with TRT channel starting, lots of Turkish musicians has start to do their own performances about, let's say, again in quote jazz, but it was tango again. For example, they were a band, the high school band. They were calling themselves East Jazz, which is they were from the Galatasaray High School. They were a member of the school, and they were calling themselves as a jazz musicians, but they were doing tango again.
I
So,
see.
and after a while,
And Seven Palm Beach, that they were making tango music as well, or was
as
that
they
more?
say, yes, but there's no evidence about what they're playing, but what they played. But the rumors
I
have.
read somewhere that it was there is the oldest recording of jazz that we do have is Seven Palm Beach. I don't know if that's, I just read that somewhere, but I don't know
But
if it exists. You probably
I didn't listen any part of
maybe
Seven
Seven
Palm Beach.
Palm Beach.
I will give my left arm for that actually. If you if you can find any tunes from those times, so
Okay,
I would like to
I'll
listen.
keep digging for it.
Yeah, keep it up. Okay.
So that's interesting because obviously the country where this music is happening probably has a great influence in the music itself. So for jazz, the idea that there is, I saw that there is some sort of musicians are talking about a similarity between jazz music and traditional Turkish music,
Yeah.
mainly that there's this improvisation and these odd rhythms, and again in your documentary, Terence Blanchard talks about this, that there is the same passion and the same drive
Same
behind
concept.
it.
Yeah. Actually, um, there there are many tries about that improvisation in, let's say, for example, let's say, who, for example, Tuna Ötenel. Tuna Ötenel had the Jazz Semai album released in 1978, and together with Kudret Öztoprak and Erol Pekcan. So that was the first released jazz album of Turkey, the first Turkish jazz records, let's say. And so they were using all the Anatolian tunes with the jazz instruments and also the jazz scales and rhythms. Let's say they just reshaped all those music. But when you have a look at the Tuna Etena today, he's talking about that album. So it was just a try about can we do our own tune, which is like Turkish jazz. But after that, um, I don't know the English word of Bein el Milal, but you can tell me maybe. But the jazz is it's a very international, let's say, sound. it's not belongs to the Americans, or it's just came up in America, let's say, in some way. But in other hand, it's jazz is an umbrella about and the improvisation is the big word under that umbrella. And if you have a look to the improvisation, so you can have a look to Ashiks of Anatolia, like Ashik Veysel, for example. So the Ashik Veysel is a tremendous Anatolian blues musician, I can say, if you take a look from the American way to Anatolia. And for example, today's musicians, Erkan Oğur, for example, he's doing his projects since many years as an Anatolian blues project. He's calling them like that. I mean, the all performances. So in Turkey, lots of musicians was trying to use their own roots in this jazz genre, and then some people are calling this type of tries as a ethno jazz, but some people are like Terence Blanchard says, they just feeling very close to themselves, because in concept and in mind part. And but and also I think it was last week or before the last week, I just read an article about the oldest genres, and then the head of the article was say goodbye to all genres. So I think, in my opinion, the jazz has just opened the way of saying goodbye to all genres, because today you can see all kind of different genres in same stage with various artists, and you can watch them in any jazz festival in the world, anywhere. And I mean, the people are calling this jazz, or I don't know, but I like this, and it's playing in jazz festival kind of explanation they're giving. And so today I'm a bit confused, let's say, after I finished this documentary, having lots of conversations, having lots of interviews, and also still researching this this genre, let's say.
But would you say that jazz is vibrant in Turkey today? I mean, is it still developing and
exactly? I mean,
is that the reason of the confusion?
in Turkey, I mean, in every country, I think, in the world, the jazz is a life form, I can say. It's not a music genre, and the meaning of jazz is a bit silly answer to that question, which is if you ask to me what is jazz, and I can say that if any jazz musicians make any music, they call jazz, and they're calling themselves like that. So they believe that this is a life form for them, and they are using this music and this type of genre like breathing and eating or drinking, something like that, and they put what they got on their hands, on their minds, always using this music as a communication tool, let's say. And yes, it's developing very, rapidly, and it's working very well in Turkey, actually, this genre on these days. But not about the pandemic time, let's say. But
yes, of course.
The else, yes, the jazz still alive and still developing, and it's very vibrant, let's say.
Yeah. So I guess we cannot go without mentioning the role that Turkey played in the development of jazz in America. I'm specifically thinking of the Ertegun brothers and Atlantic Records. Maybe you could tell us that story.
At the 30s, the Mehmet Münir Ertegun, the Neslihan Ahmet Ertegun's father, he was a Turkish ambassador in the United States, and then they were very young, Nesuhi and Ahmet, when the father assigned as a Turkish ambassador to the United States, and then I think Nesuhi was 17, Ahmet was 10 or 11 or 12 years old or something like that, and they just they in DC. They were following up all type of music, so they were very interested about music, and then um, and Ambassador Mansion House was having lots of musicians friends as a guest players, some music performances, and the other things. It happened in the Ambassador Mansion House, and after that they started the Atlantic Records, and then that Atlantic Records wasn't successful at the first term, let's say, but day by day they developed and they add something to those records and with different musicians, and and then became their famous legendary artisans. So and
Yeah, and they produced artists such as
of I can say Ray Charles, let's say,
yeah,
Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, John
incredible.
Coltrane, Charlie Mingus, and Dave Brubeck, for example, and
And Dave
Ben King.
Brubeck, but
Yeah,
Dave Brubeck, he's interesting as I mean he's obviously an amazing musician, but his story with Turkey is also interesting, right? That piece, the Blue Rondo a
Rondala
la
Turk.
Turk,
Yeah,
because he traveled a lot in the 50s. I guess he did international tours, came to Turkey,
yeah.
and they mentioned that it changed the way jazz progressed. That
Exactly.
because of
The old rhythm, it was very unique rhythm. I mean, belongs to Middle East, let's say, and then one of his journeys to Middle East of Dave Brubeck, he just we got this old rhythm from the gypsy musicians in Istanbul, and after that, taking that old rhythm is 9/8, let's say, and then that 9/8 rhythm is very rare, and you can't follow your with your claps while you're listening any 9/8 music, which is giving very, I mean, different taste to musicians while they performing in 9/8 rhythm, which is odd rhythm, and
Mhm.
so they're giving some little surprises to audience while you're making that in that scales and rhythms. And so the Dave Brubeck just got this Blue Rondo a la Turk, and then that song is just entered to the legendary the standards of American jazz, and then so the Turkey always had let's say different taste in American jazz musicians mind, let's say. And the second thing was the Dizzy Gillespie. Dizzy Gillespie came to Turkey because of the Jazz Ambassadors program of United States, because the United States was in Cold War with Russia, and the Russia was attacking with different cultural ways to American culture, let's say, and then the America just started the one very small propaganda radio, which is Voice of America, and Voice of America was releasing their programs from Poland to all Europe and Russia. Actually, they were aiming to Russia about those programs, and Willis Conover was the programmer of the jazz programs, and Willis Conover was always taking Middle Eastern and the related areas musicians as a case in his program, and he was introducing their music, their instruments, their tunes, and lots of things. And lots of Turkish musicians, critics, and reviews you can find in Voice of America, Willis Conover programs. You can take it to YouTube today, and you can find amazing things. And I've used some of them in my movie as well. But in other hand, so while they aiming to making program for Russia like a propaganda, and the same signals was working for Turkey as well. It's,
Mm-hmm.
especially the western coast part of Turkey was taking those signals very strong, and in Istanbul, in Izmir, in and also in Çanakkale part and the different bases. So you can find a Voice of America channel on your radio as a signal.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who had
Mm-hmm.
just started the Voice of America music, I mean jazz, while American channel trying to make this propaganda to Russia about their culture, so the Turkey just affected as well from the
Yeah.
American way. And the second the way was this ambassador program, and jazz ambassadors was I think selected first. It was Louis Armstrong, and after that Dizzy Gillespie, Ornette Coleman, lots of jazz giants went to the different parts of the world for taking this culture to the other countries. But one point is when Dizzy Gillespie came to Turkey, um, we already have playing as a monster. Playing as a giant jazz musicians. We had many jazz musicians already in our portfolio. Let's say when Dizzy Gillespie came to the country. And then, for example, Mafi Falay, Cüneyt Sermet, Erol Pekcan,
Mm-hmm.
Sunay Tener, I mean, lots of them was already well educated about this music, and they were doing their own music. So, um, yeah. So,
Yeah. It's interesting because I was going to also ask you about Arif Mardin,
yeah.
um, who um, who was actually a great musician, right? I mean, an arranger, and I think Cüneyt Sermet was his mentor, and that's how I think he ended up at Berkeley School of Music, and then he ended up being on the producing side, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
another I guess Turkish person in the music world of America,
Mhm.
and he also I guess I mean he definitely has played a huge part in that too. So maybe we could talk a little bit about.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Arif Mardin was the Cüneyt Sermet. Let's say start with like this. Arif Mardin's sister was the classmate of Cüneyt Sermet from Robert College, and then and one day the Arif Mardin's sister just took her brother to Cüneyt Sermet, and then you should meet because you're listening same kind of mad music, let's say,
Uh
and
huh.
so that you can talk some. And anyway, so the Arif Mardin and Cüneyt Sermet, let's say, a friendship just started on those days, and Arif Mardin is the most talented composer, arranger, and musician I can say. I just can see in my life. If you ask me about my top first three musicians, Turkish musicians, let's say, I would say the first one could be an Arif Mardin, I think. And um, his music, his arrangements or compositions was like. With less instruments, you can feel like a big orchestra sound is coming up. Like, for example, if you listen his music, you can feel like 10 people is playing, his music. But um,
And there is a little bit of that in your movie, right? Where Cüneyt
exactly.
Sermet has us listen
Yeah,
to
yeah.
his music. It's a wonderful, wonderful moment, isn't it?
He
Sorry,
was
I
expressing all his attention and passion
and
about,
playing every instrument.
exactly. He's remembering the old notes of that performance, let's say, and that performance happened in Voice of America radio channel. and Voice of America Jazz Orchestra recorded in America, in Washington studios. But the point was, when Dizzy Gillespie Orchestra came to Turkey, and then Turkish government just called Cüneyt Sermet and other, let's say, giants of Turkish music and Turkish jazz music, and they were the let's say host for Dizzy Gillespie and his friends. And the first trumpet of Dizzy Gillespie Orchestra, first trumpet was what was the guy I told you that at the beginning? I done an interview. I forgot his name.
It's okay. I can't remember either.
Anyway, so he was the first trumpet of the Dizzy Gillespie, and then the Cüneyt Sermet gave the Arif Mardin some compositions to him, and he liked very much the old compositions, and then told him that he will take these notes to America, and then so they're going to play them, and then so they will consider what they can do. And Quincy Jones, yeah, I remember. Yeah, Quincy Jones was the first trumpet of Dizzy Gillespie Orchestra. So in other hand, the Berklee College has scholarships from the American jazz musicians. One of those scholarships belongs to the Quincy Jones, and Quincy Jones gave his scholarship to Arif Mardin. And then so the Arif Mardin, so he accepted that scholarship, and then so he went to Boston, and then so he started to his study in Boston Berklee College. And if you go to the archives of Berklee College today, you can find, I'm not talking about one or two records, you can find a section about Arif Mardin's compositions. And then so
Incredible.
he's an amazing person. I mean, I never met in person with him, but I had a chance about the meeting with his son, Joe Mardin. He's also I mean, amazing person and very talented about music, and also is very, I mean, connected with his father's legacy, let's say. And that music has just happened. You show that you watched in movie after the Quincy Jones back to America, and then they played with Voice of America band orchestra in Washington radio channel, let's say. So the Arif Mardin was the first person from Turkey. He gone to the Berklee College, and after that, each generation, let's say, send more than dozens different jazz musicians from Turkey to Berklee College. Berklee College has a strong connection with Turkey and Turkish musicians just because of Arif Mardin, because Arif Mardin was the very big, let's say, helper when any Turkish musician would like to go to Berklee College. For example, Emin Fındıkoğlu was going to Berklee College as well after Arif Mardin's years, let's say, and the Arif Mardin and also the school, some teachers of him told him, you should back to your country and you should take this music to your country back, and then you can give more development about this jazz music. And he did that. And today Emin Fındıkoğlu has many students, and they are very professional musicians on the stage of Turkey or on the stage of the world, let's say. Same as like the Arif Mardin students.
Yeah, fascinating.
I can talk till morning about this.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just want to ask. You're living in London, and there are some great jazz spots there. When you come to Turkey, or from what you remember, or any recommendations in terms of I know Nardis is quite big now, but is there any other spots that,
The,
if our listeners end
the
up coming
clubs,
to
yeah.
Istanbul, to not miss?
For
If
example,
they're
Bova, Bova, Bova riding and reading.
okay,
So the Bova is a amazing stage. So you can find various type of Turkish jazz musicians. The Badu club in Kadıköy site. I think this three is enough. Touche, maybe Touche club could be nice, and there's many of them. But there's a very big, tax problems of these clubs. So they always do. These 4 or 5 clubs doing just jazz performances, but you can find many different jazz performances in different stages who also having different genres music. But these 4 stages having just jazz, let's say. But the Nardis is the, let's say, mecca of
of
Turkish jazz, let's say.
okay,
And then strongly suggest that Nardis and Bova, it's the first 2 clubs they should visit in Turkey.
okay, great. Okay, well, before we finish, I just want to ask if there's anything that you're working on. I know everything is on hold at the moment
Yeah.
with the
Um,
pandemic, but is there something that you're planning or that you're
Actually, we came to London, I think it was 3.5 years ago. And then after I came here, I just realized that I should bring something from our culture, which I couldn't find in the city, especially about the music part. And then we decided to create a new festival in London, and we called that Turquoise. And that festival mission was bringing Turkish jazz musicians from Turkey to London. And we did that last year, actually, and we did in 6 different jazz clubs, Turkish jazz performances, and from Jazz Cafe, from Cafe Otto to 606, and many of them. And and after taking the positive reactions from the Londoners about this festival, so we decided to keep going about bringing more musicians from Turkey. But we done that last year in March for 2 weeks, and we are totally exhausted because of you running every day to a different place with different musicians and PR part and also etc. And we decided to do this festival all long year, like once or twice in a month type of festival, but running all year in 12 months type of
right?
festivals. But we just decided like that, and we reformatted and reshaped all our rules and context. But this pandemic has just started, and we freeze. Everything is frozen now. We don't know yet what we're gonna do, but we will keep doing this festival. In other hand, I just started a book about the improvisation conversations with the musicians. So I just started to make internet interviews with not just with Turkish musicians, with other nations musicians. Also, I'm having them to my book. But I think maybe in a year, hopefully, I'm going to finish that and I'm going to release that first. Everyone is asking me about why don't you make documentary instead of book? They're saying, but at this point, I believe so. First, the book will be much healthier for entering to this
Yeah.
subject, and after that, maybe if I can find enough archives and enough footage about this, and then maybe I can make a movie about that. I'm thinking like this.
Oh, great. Well, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Me too.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Batu, for joining me today. It was a pleasure to have you,
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, it was great for
and
me too.
and I wish you all the best with your upcoming projects, and I hope the festivals will be back up and running
Hmm.
with this the new normality, whatever that's going to end up being.
We'll see
Yes,
what
we'll
will happen.
see. But
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much also.
Speak to you soon. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining me today. See you next time. Goodbye and stay safe.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.